Welcome to the Heart for God podcast. With many years of experience pastoring and helping to start churches, Dr. Jim Townsley has some practical and biblical advice that can be a great help to you and your ministry. On this podcast, Dr. Townsley and other guests with special expertise cover a variety of topics. His goal is to help you lead your church to be a healthy, strong, and balanced ministry, and for your family to be happy, healthy, and living for the Lord.
Thanks for joining today in our podcast. Today I'm alone by myself, but I want to talk about a very important topic. This is a new issue that early in my ministry was not something that was really prevalent, but today, that's the day we live in. The last 10 years in particular, and 20 years even, there's an issue of sexual allegations. There's a sexual predator. There's a registry for people who are sex offenders. They've been charged and found guilty, whether it's plea bargain or not. Their name ends up on a registry. Now, if that hasn't happened yet in your church, believe me, it will. It's coming if it hasn't already. And part of the reason for that is there is no real protection for pastors. If an accusation is made and someone does so falsely, it's very, very difficult to hold that person accountable. And the trend is, and has been for several years, that the accusation itself is enough to cause suspicion. And there are people on the internet, social media, they prey on these things, and they just find you guilty. So when that happens, you can't stop what people say and what they do on social media, even if you're innocent and perhaps never, you're only accused and never even went to court, and you were never charged with a crime but because of these issues today, and there are, without question, people who are guilty of sexual abuse, and so churches have to have a protocol. How do you handle that? And most likely, if there is someone new in your church and they are on the registry, their name is there from sexual assault or child predator or something like that, the people find out about that. What happens then is they say, well, if this person is going to my church, my children are at risk. I'm going to have to stop going. And once it is known and well published and people start talking about it, it's a really awkward position that the pastor's in. And even if you feel that person was falsely accused or is not guilty, it still can be a sticky situation to deal with. So first of all, precaution needs to be taken. Several years ago, I guess 30 years ago now, when some of this began, I had a solid door going into my office. I immediately changed it. So it's a French door, glass up and down to the top. People can always see in here. Now, even if someone is present, if my wife is present or a secretary is outside, you just don't want to take any chances whatsoever. The same would be true of those that work with children or the teen program. You have to do a search, a background check for people when they're new, they want to get involved. Then the answer is you've got to do a background check before that happens. Because if somebody finds out that here is someone who's on the registry that was convicted of something, and they're working with the teenagers or children or teaching Sunday school or working on the bus ministry to be around children, then, that's a real problem. And I think it takes every situation individually. Perhaps someone had been accused of something, you interview them, you talk to them, they were never convicted of anything, but there may be some stuff on the internet, then you still need to take precaution. If you really believe they're totally innocent, you have to talk to your deacons or key people in the church, and you don't announce it from the pulpit, but and you're not trying to hide anything, but the potential, if you start spreading word around, then it gets out of sorts. It goes bigger than what really is going on. So if you feel reasonably sure, then make sure you have some men that are always watching for anything inappropriate. If there's a young man that's taking teenage girls home alone or in a room together. I mean, when someone's really persistent, it's hard to stop. I mean, they can hide and, so you just have to have people aware and looking. That's if you feel they're innocent and there's no reason to dismiss them or bring it up before the church. If they were convicted of something and you've investigated, you've talked to them, and you feel it was a bogus charge, they plea bargained, they just to get this thing resolved, that's a real touchy thing. You have to be very, very cautious. Again, if people know about it, then you have to deal with it. And let's say there is someone, maybe even 2 encounters of child abuse or sex abuse. People, you weren't aware of it, and you didn't do a background check because they're just attending church. Then someone comes to you and they say, did you realize this person, he's been convicted of sexual abuse. What do you do about that? Once something like that has become known among the church, you have to make a decision. Do you want to lose families or any family because that person stays in the church? This is a really hard thing to come to, but probably you're going to have to say to them, look, it's not going to work for you to be here at our church. There are people who are aware of your background. They're concerned because they have children that come to church that, and in the best of circumstances, you just have to say to someone, you can't be around children, you sit alone, you come in late, go early, but better safe than sorry, because this is a big, big problem. And you can do everything right and still be accused. People can say, well, you should have reported this to the police, and you didn't. Well, there may be reasons why you didn't report it to the police. It was not necessary to report. But once people start making the accusations, it becomes a big problem. So I don't think I have all the answers, and I do think there are situations that are unique, that are different. But it may come down to the fact that you're going to have to say to someone, look, you can't serve in this ministry, you can come, you can attend, but you can't be involved with youth or children or Sunday school or bus ministry. Or you may have to say, you just can't come to church here because, there are people who are very, very concerned about your past and your record. And I know Christ can forgive people. I realize, that there may be true that they've turned over a leaf, they've made things right, but it's such a huge risk. And I would suggest, too, when something does happen, seek legal counsel. Also seek input from your insurance company, because they're the ones that usually pay the bill. And that's what people go after. And there are people out there, and I've seen it more than once. They just make accusations, and all they're doing is working the system. They're trying to get money. And so you've got to be on your guard so that you don't allow your church or you as a pastor to be vulnerable. So it is important to just be aware. These are things that are huge issues in the day in which we live. And whenever you have someone you don't know, they're going to work with teenagers, they're going to work with children or youth in some way. You can save yourself a lot of heartache by doing a background check. And you can find, even just searching on the internet, look their name up, Google their name. If there's issues out there, it'll show up. And you can find registry. They have to register when they're in a certain area. So, you can get that information. So that's a difficult thing for the ministry today. That did not used to exist. That was not an issue. And, we know there were a lot of issues in the Catholic Church, priests and sometimes young boys that, they were alone and private, and a lot of things happened. That became a huge scandal several years ago. But you can't put everybody in that same basket. It doesn't mean everybody fits into that. But whenever one issue does occur, boy, it's blown up, it's huge, it's big, and it goes all over the world. People hear about it. And so put safeguards into place for all of your workers and those that help with Sunday school, particularly the men. Make sure that, you don't want men going around hugging the teen girls. You're just taking a huge risk, that they should not be having contact with them in that way. So it is an issue that you have to deal with, and better prevention than trying to resolve an issue once it occurs. So that's not a very happy note, but, the ministry is a great place, and the devil wants to destroy it. It's wonderful to see people saved and lives changed, but the devil will use this issue particularly to try to destroy your influence and your ministry. And once that happens, it's very, very difficult to overcome. Well, God bless you, and take heed. Be careful. Put precautions in place. God bless you. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, consider sharing it with a friend. You can also follow at Dr. Townsley on Twitter or on Facebook at Jim Townsley.